Come, let us meditate like a Jedi. This morning, let us explore the fourth of 5 passages of the meditation classic known as The Great Potentiality, composed by the great Buddhist reformer Vajra. Thinking in terms of I and mine is the mistaken path of the heretics. As the foolish are deceived, they enter the path of conceptual activities, never reach the goal or attain any understanding. So how can they attain reality? By actively searching for reality as it is. All right, so we begin with an idea that stretches back to Theravada Buddhism. Thinking in terms of I and mine is the mistaken path of the heretics. What does that mean? Well, to explain this efficiently, I'm going to use some visual aids. By the way, this text and the visual aids that I'm turning to are both available as PDF documents for free download. So, as we go through life, our guiding factor can be fear or love. When fear is our guiding factor, fear and aggression, not only do we tend to be rigid, fearful, superstitious, controlling, elitist, cryptic, competitive, and cruel, but we tend to think it's pretty wonderful and everyone should be that way. When love is our guiding principle, we tend to be flexible, loving, rational, laid back, egalitarian, lucid, cooperative, and kind. Sturgeon's law reminds us that 90% of everything sucks, that 90% of people, including meditation teachers, live from anxiety and aggression. Now, there's a difference between feeling an emotion and being defined by it. So these are the people who are defined by it. These are the people who implore their students to actively focus and actively analyze. Overworking our medial and dorsolateral prefrontal cortex is going to induce us to present with symptoms of depression, as well as further trigger our amygdala, the seat of anxiety and aggression. Fortunately, neither our amygdala nor the prefrontal cortex constitute the entirety of our central nervous system. Our central nervous system is presently or contemporarily known as the autonomic nervous system. In days of yore, it was nicknamed the seat of the Buddha nature. Why is that? Well, every time we feel our lungs inhale, we are wired to automatically access the middle bit of our spinal cord, described as the sympathetic nervous system, which has evolved to help us to vulnerably, passively, viscerally, randomly, and fleetingly notice mind's antics of seeing, hearing, feeling, tasting, smelling, and the like, including the full spectrum of human emotions, intentions, cognition, recollection, and imagination. But what are we to do with that which we notice? Simple. Every time we exhale, every time we feel our chest sink, we are wired to automatically access the end bits of our spinal cord, kind of like bookends on a shelf. This is known as our parasympathetic nervous system, and it has evolved to help us to physically relax and mentally release to such a degree that which we noticed during our previous inhalation could fleetingly feel less stressful, less permanent, and even less defining. But all complex life forms on this planet have evolved to think symbolically. Therefore, it should not surprise us that in every human culture we find figures of speech. How could figures of speech be applied to meditation? Every time we relax during our exhalation, that which we noticed during our previous inhalation could fleetingly feel as non-graspable as a vast empty void. Now, a simile is only as useful as it is relatable, so we have to ask the question, what? What is a real-world example of a non-graspable, vast empty void? Well, how about the illusion of the infinite azure sky on a bright and beautiful cloudless morn, which although could look tantalizing to the eye, feels non-graspable to the hand. So now that we have a basic understanding of emptiness and selflessness, let's return to this morning's teaching text. Every time we relax into our exhalation, whatever concepts of me and mine we noticed during our previous inhalation could feel as non-graspable as a vast empty void. So the problem isn't noticing the ideas of me and mine. The question is, what do we do with it? Our problems come from failing to cooperate with our autonomic nervous system. Let's continue. As the foolish are deceived, they enter the path of conceptual activities and never reach their goal or attain any understanding. So the basic duality explored by the Buddha was the duality of pushing or pulling or dreading or desiring or fearing or hoping. You get the basic idea. There's this myth that if it's to be, it's up to me. And so we all are conditioned to have controlling tendencies. And so sometimes we try to ignore what's troubling us or analyze what's troubling us. But that is first of all, that's a way that abuses the front of our brain, and it exhausts our brain and induces the symptoms of mental illness. Second of all, it's woefully ineffective. My teachers told me to practice active focus and active analysis, and I got really good at it, but it gave me no peace. It wasn't until I found a teacher who taught me to simply cooperate with my spinal cord, to simply notice vulnerably when I breathe in and relax as I breathe out, not actively, but passively. We are already wired to notice and to relax. Here's the question, and I'm going to once again shift to texts. So let's go over here, and I'll tap button 9, and here we go. So every breath, we're faced with a decision. Do we actively fight against, compete against our central nervous system and muck about with this area right here, or do we passively cooperate with our sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous systems? It's good that we might choose to passively cooperate, but that's not enough. We need a mechanism, and here's the easiest mechanism. Every time we silently and mentally recite the verb watch during our inhalation, as well as silently and mentally recite the verb rest during our exhalation, all we're doing is ceasing to fight against the natural processes that have always been there, like a dog that has followed us home from school. So how can they attain reality? By actively searching for reality as it is. Once again, well, this is a good time to revisit the idea. Many, many centuries ago, the great South Indian Buddhist philosopher Nagarjuna taught that there is the conventional and the ultimate, that which we notice and that which we experience as we relax. They are both required. Just as a one-winged bird cannot take to the skies, similarly, to experience the true peace of letting go, we must cooperate with both our inhalations and our exhalations. We must both notice as well as relax. And we do that by cooperating with our autonomic nervous system, by silently and mentally reciting watch and rest during each phase of our breath. Having completed our opening lesson, we could now shift gears. It is General Leia Organa Saturday morning. Come, let us meditate like a Jedi after approximately 30 seconds of housekeeping. This is the Dzogchen Sende Lama Jigme Gyatso of the Buddha Joy Meditation School. For more than 30 years, I have harnessed my autistic special interests as well as my ADHD hyperfocus to spend about 8 hours a day, almost every day, studying, practicing, mastering, and reverse engineering the teachings and techniques of each school of meditation so that I can become your personal, nerdy, neurodivergent guide to nirvana. Welcome, my friends, to Meditate Like a Jedi, which is made possible due to the generosity of viewers just like you. For the remainder of this morning's live stream, let's simply play with mindfulness and meditation. I had the first phase of oral surgery early this week, and so I must rely on ice water to cope with what's going on in my gaping maw. As we sit to meditate, we can be struck with the fear that we could close our eyes and so lose track of time that the next time we open them, a decade has passed, as if we were some sort of meditative Rip Van Winkle. A easy way to deal with that anxiety, that fear of a loss of control, is to use the creases of our fingers to count our inhalations. The easiest way to count 16 inhalations is to touch the tip of our right thumb to the lower set of creases, middle set of creases, higher set of creases, and tip found on each of the 4 fingers of our right hand, for a total of 16. If you are prone to arthritis, you may wish to adjust your legs about once every 15 minutes or so. Counting 16 inhalations is grand, but it can be done in less than 2 minutes. A great way to keep track of time for approximately 20 minutes is to gather 16 sets of 16 inhalations each. We've already discussed counting inhalations on our right hand, but using the similar method, we can count the sets on our our left hand. Our first, second, third, and fourth set, our fifth, sixth, seventh, and eighth set of 16 inhalations each, our 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th set of 16 inhalations each, our 13th, 14th, 15th, and 16th set of 16 inhalations each. Now, if this seems ungainly or weird, well, play with this, or, once every 12 hours or so. Within a week or two, it'll feel like you've been doing it for years. If you wish to meditate for more than 20 minutes, perhaps for 40 minutes or even 60 minutes, then it can be useful to gather multiple collections of 256 inhalations. To do that, we play with our index fingers. For our first collection of 256 inhalations, we could simply rest the lower knuckle of our right index finger upon the tip of our left index finger, palms up in our lap, while our thumbs play with their various creases and tips. When it's time to begin gathering our second collection of 256 inhalations, we simply slide the tip of our left index finger up the back of our right index finger until we come to the middle knuckle. And then hands remain in the lap. When it's time to begin gathering the third collection of 256 inhalations, we simply slide the tip of our left index finger up the back of our right index finger until we come to the teeny tiny higher knuckle. Once again, palms in the lap. Now, when I teach class, typically we don't make it to the third collection of 256 breaths. This is because we spend the first quarter to the first third of the class teaching. But when you practice by yourself, it's nice to have tools to play with. Perhaps the next time you ride on an airplane, you've got some time to kill. Perhaps you could sit for 20 or 40 or 60 minutes and then watch the in-flight movie. If you are prone to arthritis, you may wish to adjust your legs once every 12 minutes. I'm sorry, once every 15 minutes or so. The moment you have a specific question about Buddhist philosophy or meditation, do not hesitate to type your question in great detail in the chat window, for I tend to check for questions about once every 5 minutes or so. If you are prone to arthritis, you may wish to adjust your legs once every 15 minutes or so. The moment you have a specific question about Buddhist philosophy or meditation, do not hesitate to type your question in the chat window, for I tend to check for questions about once every 5 minutes or so. You have taken your first step into a much larger world. If you feel that I have earned it, you could give this live stream a thumbs up. You could even help support this channel. In about 11 hours, I would very much like to return to lead today's evening meditation class and group practice. And if you are as geeky as me, may the Force be with you always.